Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experiences. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is Rusalka. We do not have a primer episode for Rusalka. This game is still in development. It's designed by Nick Wedig, and you can go to boardghost.com to find links to Nick's design blog, and hopefully he'll be putting it out in an official edition soon because it's pretty close. I think it's a solid game and has become one of our favorites. So here we go into our second run-through of Rusalka. I'm one of your players, John Holt, with me.
Ken Breeze.
Iris Explosion.
And I'm Zelma.
We have all chosen our Rusalka. Rusalka is a game about, ostensibly like Slavic monster ghost things. Depending on the story you hear, they could be benevolent or they could be banshee witch kind of things. So
or
they
a bunch
can
of
have,
dead ladies.
Yeah.
Dead
so
ladies.
They can kind of carry the negative connotations of bad women spirits or witches in the woods, or they can carry the benevolent, like spirit of the wood kind of thing, depending, again, on the tale that you hear.
But what is true is that they all died.
They're
Yes.
all, in this story, they're all dead. Yeah.
Yes.
They've all come to death in a certain way.
And our Rusalka live in a tidal pond here because we have one of the tide aspects invoked. And we don't know our history, but over the course of play, as we offer boons to these petitioners, we will flash back to our past, piece by piece. Before we get going into character stuff, why don't we start with adding aspects of things to the map?
So I'm playing Mists, and my question is, what part of the Rusalka's pool has never been seen by living men's eyes? What lies hidden within? So I'm going to say that there's a little outcropping over here in the
Okay.
corner, and underneath, at low tide, you can go underneath these tree roots here.
Oh, cool.
And there's like a little cave, just like a tiny, tiny little cave that maybe goes a few yards deep. The card specifies living men's eyes. So I'm going to say that all the girls and women of the town know about this place. And they go inside here and make little like wishes and leave flowers and I don't know, candy and things, all in the hopes of just having good luck, maybe in romance, maybe in harvest and what have you. So it's kind of a benign little corner of the place that only the girls and women of the town know.
I'm playing the aspect of tides. And mine is, where have the tides worn away at the pool, weakening the walls until they are threatening to collapse? And I will mark my answer on the map. It's pretty clear where the tide is sort of coming in. These are the walls, the weakening of our pond.
And it would just open into the sea.
Yeah, they just basically open into the... So that's why when the high tide comes in, the cave is hidden. We're really inundated. There is still a little bit of a sandbar here, but it is definitely very weakened.
I am the aspect of reflection, and my question is, what lies hidden beneath the surface of the reflecting pool on the western edge of the Rusalka's home?
So you can define the north, south, east, and
Yeah,
west
go ahead
as
and-
well.
I'm
wherever.
going to say west is over here, so on sort of the opposite side of the little grotto, and then furthest from
Maybe we
the
do set it like that.
ocean. And I'm going to say there's like a little runoff tributary here that forms its own sort of very small pool.
Hmm.
And what is hidden beneath, I am going to say, is a small jewelry box containing a pair of pearl earrings and a diamond necklace.
Ooh.
But I am the aspect of ghosts, and my question is, what wards and barriers do the superstitious villagers make in a fruitless attempt to protect themselves? Mark your answer on the map. I'm going to say that the northeast here is our village, so it's like directly that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the villagers, they flay shipwrecked bodies and make scarecrows out of them.
Oh, what now?
What the? Okay.
All right.
I thought we were supposed to be the monsters.
I mean,
Well,
Turns
they
out
Humanity is the monster.
Man is the true monster all along.
Exactly. I mean, come on, they're just washed up on the shore. It's more
Horrible.
like it's recycling.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, it's effective because we, the Rusalka, are like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
guys, come on.
Okay, we're not going to leave. Jesus.
Yeah.
Flayed men as
Holy
But
scarecrows.
they're like kind of like leathery scarecrows.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, we get the idea.
Desiccated, dried. Definitely seagulls flying in to peck at them.
Yep.
It's a lot of good stuff happening.
Wow, that's a lot. You're
That's
putting
a lot of
you're
boys.
putting-
That's a lot
Wow,
of
you're-
dead boys.
This, well, I guess it is is this like a fishing village?
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. We're on the.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they wash up over here. So why don't we go around and introduce ourselves and kind of give a little bit about our appearance?
Yes.
Great. I am playing Henka, the Rusalka of the Tides. Henka has kelp hair. It's like yellow and green, like a neon green. She has very finely scaled skin, much like a fish. Also, she has a very super wide, like Muppet mouth that when she smiles has the teeth of a shark.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
a good
Henka.
Yeah.
I am Natalka, reflection. I have silver pools where my eyes should be. I am always nude. It says it on the card.
And you can feel free to go wherever you want with the
says
scriptures,
it.
too.
That's what it says on the card. I'm sticking with that, and I think
Very on brand.
part of her is always touching the water.
Nice. I am Ruslana, and I am the Rusalka of the Mists, and my face is hidden by layers and layers of veil, and I glow faintly with a silvery light.
All right. So I am playing Aesh. She's a ghost in a ghost aspect as well. She has long white hair that sort of tangles and is obscured with the long flowing white lace dress that she has, that sort of tattered lace, and it starts to disintegrate and lose its shape and definition as her form does as well.
I imagine it looks a little bit like fishnet, like
Yeah.
fish netting.
Yeah, it
Oh,
has
that's
that
cool.
kind of aspect. And then her eyes are just black pools, and her mouth is also sort of wide and open and just blackness deep within.
Love these fish mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fish mouth.
And that's Aesh.
Yes.
All right. So
We've already got a very different vibe from our previous one.
Totally different.
we're all set up? The gentle crash of the waves echoes across the still pond, and the quiet of the night is broken by the huffing and heaving of a voice of a middle-aged man with sort of thinning hair, wearing a leather apron, and sweating profusely, sweating more than the hot night would make him. It's clear that he's moved here quickly, and he's huffing and puffing, but it's also he's looking around nervously, and he shies at the flayed men that he sort of is winding his way through, and he finally comes to the edge of the pond, and he says, "Women of the water, I come to you. I brave our wards to come to you. I've done something. I've done something that I thought I've promised the king, something magical. I've promised to make him an object of glass that could move and be alive, a living thing of glass, a child of glass. I thought with gears and clock baubles I could do this, but it's beyond me. I need you. I need your help, women, or my family will be ruined."
Ruslana rises from the water. The veils in front of her face are stuck to her features. It still looks very smooth like stone, and a faint glow emanates from her. And she rises from the water and seems to walk on top of it towards the petitioner.
His eyes widen and are just white, all around, his pupils that are focused and thin, and he falls shaking to his knees in the sandy grass.
Why do you want this? What will it do for you?
He casts his eyes down, and he says, It will make my fortune if we get this. I've extended my family. I've spent so much and turned away so much other work to try to get this done. I'm stuck. I'll be ruined, even if the king is not mad at my failure.
You will not be ruined, for I will give you exactly what you want. You will create this child of glass, and the child will be marveled at, and your skill will be lauded all across the kingdom. And you will receive so much more work than you ever dreamed imaginable. I will give you what you want, and I will give you the skill to recreate it. Would that please you?
As you've described your gift, his head has sort of risen, and his eyes are unfocused as he thinks on future glories.
And as he is looking out with that 1,000-yard stare, Ruslana suddenly has a memory. And it is in the village, in the small church that is at the top of a hill. And she is in a wedding gown and veiled. And she is proud and determined because she has managed to snag the most influential man in the town, which might seem small in a village as small as this, but this is a man who has inherited some money and has plans for the future and is becoming renowned for his business acumen. And she is the one that got him. No one else. She got him. And as she prepares to enter the little church, she knows that this might be her proudest accomplishment. And we're back in the pond.
From the south, a welling up is happening in the pond, near where the waves are softly crashing against the shore. The welling up almost looks like someone's crown of their head emerging from the water as the seawater's trailing down. The kelp is, it almost seems like just kelp is rising to the top of the water to just float there, and then it continues to rise up and up and up. An scaly arm comes out, webbed fingers emerging as Hanka comes to this petitioner. Small sand crabs crawl from out of her kelp hair and down her neck, over and back to her shoulders. As she steps up, she is not wearing any clothes, but her skin is scaled and it has little definition. You can only see a silhouette of her curved form. As she emerges, she stares across the tide pool. She does not walk on the water as her sister does. She instead wades through it, this kelp, her hair flowing behind her, almost like a tail, a fish tail.
Yeah, and the glassblower is broken from his reverie and kind of falls back on his hands and butt and scuttles back a little bit. My lady.
Long has it been since we've been disturbed? You've come seeking much. I can help you with what you want. I can give you and so much more. So much more. These clouds. You will learn every secret. Glass children will be but the basics.
Yeah, and he's at this point, from this backed up posture, he's leaned forward and is almost getting to his toes, greed in his eyes.
There is shimmer on the water as Henka looks down for just a moment and seems to see a reflection of something she now realizes as a moment from her past. She flashes back to when she was flesh and blood, truly, a mother in the village, someone who has borne many children who have grown and left. But her youngest lies before her on the table, body cold, lips blue, her sweet, sweet Erish. He was her joy. And as she lights the ritual candles, and as she reads the infernal words of power, she attempts to summon forth his spirit so that they can speak together and be together once more. The words are unfamiliar to her, but she has practiced them over and over for just this very moment. And as she draws a small kitchen knife to cut her hand, there is a loud murmur of a crowd approaching. Flames can be seen, raised voices and shouts. She knows that the price she might have to pay for her sweet son's return may be too high. And the crowd surrounds her farmhouse.
As the moonlight reflects on the water shimmers, and it almost looks as if the moonbeam itself has sat up. And Natalka is just curled up on the surface of the water. And she looks at the petitioner, her eyes reflecting him back, and says,
I have taken pity on you. What a plight you are in, your poor family, to be threatened by such a cruel tyrant. Why do all this hard work? Why fill your head to bursting with these headaches when I can just give you what you want?
and she waves her arm, and out from the water rises a child of glass, and it looks beautiful, and it begins to slowly dance toward him across the water, and she says,
I can give you this, and it will be better than anything that crude mortal hands can make, and the king will be so pleased. And people will travel from across the land to see it if they will pay money, and you will never have to work again. Your family will never have to work. You can just enjoy life, enjoy the pleasures and richness that the attention of the king and this marvel will bring to you because, well, there's something about you.
as his face reflects in her eyes, we see him as a child, and we see him and his twin sister, and they are marvelous friends. They have always been close. They have always grown up together, and they sit with their grandfather learning to carve wood, and they start carving little dolls, and it is clear that her talent far outstrips his. And although the grandfather, of course, praises him and directs him, he is marveling at her little doll, and that such tiny, clever hands can create such a thing of intricacy. And as they grow up, she becomes known for her crafts, and she becomes successful in the village, and people will come to visit her shop and buy her wares. And we see him, and he works in the shop, but he looks at her with envy, and he looks at her with resentment.
Yeah, the petitioner, we come back and he's reaching for this glass child, and he pulls his hands back and goes, "Oh, you would all give me so much to think about. You would give me another, I'll take it all. I'll have this perfect one for my own, and maybe you'll give me one I can give the king, and then I'll know how to make them if I want to."
The glass child reaches its hand out.
Yeah, he reaches to scoop it up out of the water.
As soon as he touches it, it wraps itself around him and pulls him into the pool. And drowns him.
Are there other consequences from your guys' picks?
Well, mine was he gets what he wants, but it causes problems.
Oh, yeah.
So if he's drowned, then
I mean,
that's a problem.
So he's pulled in and drowned.
Mhm.
But
And
the glass child.
a glass version of him wearing his leather apron steps
Yep.
out carrying the glass child with gears internally clacking within his, and this like fluid magical glass child in its arms start walking off towards the village.
So then in that case, he has this beautiful, perfect glass child to show the king, and the king is indeed awed by his skill. Doesn't seem to notice that this man is also a construction of glass and gears, and he is praised and lauded but all around the kingdom, and people come from far and wide and give him money, and he does not see his family at all anymore. He's there, he lives with them, but they become afraid of how cold he's become, how autonomous, how
Yeah.
much like an animaton he becomes. Even his wife, who he once loved with such warmth and tenderness, is afraid to share a bed with him at night because he does not seem like the man that he once was. Indeed, he is not. And though they move to a bigger house and his children never want for anything again, all of this that he did for his family means that he cannot be with his family anymore.
Indeed. And a big part of that is him not being really able to sleep. He does not sleep. He works, perfects his craft, but also he uses the gift of the tides, the charm that has been emblazoned into his mind that allows him to speak to the dead and learn their secrets.
Yeah, I think what he does too is he starts to dig the dead and offer this sort of service of bringing the dead to life and giving them voice by like replacing parts of them with glass and gears, and is sort of
That's why they're so good.
updating and upgrading. And you kind of look on this thing as it works on like building and dissecting and building a new living thing, and the glint in its eye is empty. There's nothing there, because truly at the bottom of this pond is the real glass blower, this this accursed automaton, this thing that just doesn't sleep. It just builds and effectively replicates an army of dead glass gear soldier monsters.
Are
the
the
dead.
dead souls in the glass creatures?
That's the thing. I think so. Like so even though drowned in the pond,
Yeah.
his soul is trapped in this thing, giving it life. And he is similarly like trapping these souls inside their bodies with the machinations that he's using.
Sweet.
All right, so he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
So we discard the gift that we used, and we'll discard this petitioner. We can just start making a pile.
What mine said is I use illusions to draw him in and draw him out.
That's
Nice,
perfect.
nice.
So we'll pass this all to our left. Yeah.
It is dawn. It is the beginning of the day. Faux dawn, if you will, pre-dawn. So it is light. Light sky is being lit in the east. From that direction, the Rusalka maybe hear, again, more labored breathing. It seems to not indicate someone who's been like running a marathon or something, like someone who's been rushing, but someone who is like hurt. You can start to smell in the air the tang of coppery blood. The fog that is clinging to this entire place that hasn't burned off yet, obscuring who might be coming. But the silhouette within the fog seems to be someone who is limping, and they seem to have a long and wide cloak that is billowing out behind them like wings. as they are making their way as quickly as possible towards the pond. In the far, far distance, we can hear the sounds of hounds baying. As this person emerges from the mist, the swirling mist, we see a woman, her boots and clothes well worn. She is obviously a traveler. She seems to be leaning on a large stave that she's sort of using to hold her weight, while one of her legs seems to be mangled, as if maybe it was bitten up by something. It's not. Her leg is limp at her side. She is not really able to carry much weight on it. And as she gets to the top of the sand dunes, her staff sinks in and then twists suddenly. She falls forward and starts rolling down the sand dunes until coming sort of skidding to a stop in front of one of the flayed men by the pond's edge. As she looks up, we can see she's asymmetrical haircut where only one of her eyes hidden by blondish hair. As she looks up, breathlessly saying, "Spirits of the water, please, please. The Inquisitors, they're after me. Please, please. I do not know how to leave. They took my map. And their dogs chase me. They've already taken my flesh. They know where I'm going. Please, they're after me. You must help, please."
The water in front of you glows. A hand reaches out and takes the petitioner's hand.
She starts. Ah!
Ruslana holds on and attempts to be a sturdy grounding force for this woman who is clearly going through the ringer. And she emerges, just her head, and again the veil is plastered to her face. She says,
I will hide you in plain sight. You will appear as someone else, and none will know who you are.
Veiled spirit, you honor me, but I keep the old ways. What would you ask for this boon?
I ask nothing.
She seems concerned
she's smart.
by this.
But Ruslana takes the woman's hand with her other hand. It is wet and cold, but she's trying to hold on tight. And she says,
I will change you so that none will know you. Would you have my gift?
we have a flashback. And we see Ruslana in life. She is young, very young, maybe 13. She is going into a shop that sells beautiful little dolls. And she is wearing a veil over her head to hide her hair color. And she's wearing a big bulky coat so that she can disguise who she is. And she is looking around the shop, and no one seems to be in attendance at the moment because she was waiting, and she knew that Natalka takes a ramble towards the well at a certain hour of the day, and she knows that she has to be fast, and she knows that the brother doesn't watch as closely. And she goes to the back of the room, and there are the smallest, most inexpensive dolls, and they're maybe the size of your thumb. And she has never had a doll before. Waiting until the brother is turned away, she takes it and puts it in her big coat and rushes out of the shop.
The petitioner snatches her hand away from Ruslana, trying to regain her feet as she's tumbled to the side of the pool, and stammers, Will I still be human?
If you so choose.
Natalka sits up from the water and says,
You poor thing. Clearly they have tormented you. You are racked with pain. You are shivering. You are bleeding. Why not just rid the world of them? I can teach you ways of, just doing away with them. I can teach you food, or breathe into their air, or give them drink, and you'll never have to worry about them. And no one will have to worry about them ever again.
She glides back towards the center of the pool and she looks down into the water. And we see her in life. She is in her home, which is on top of her shop, where she sells her dolls, and her family is celebrating. Everyone is there, her spouse, her children, her brother, of course, their parents, because the king has summoned her to create wonders for him. And in the morning, she will set off to travel to the capital. And everyone is so proud of her, and everyone toasts to her and praises her and tells her how much they will miss her. And her brother, with tears in his eyes, passes her a cup of wine. She settles most of her body down into the pool with some satisfaction.
Petitioner says, Lady of the Light, I seek to escape, not to kill these men, but they are evil. They hate outsiders. I came here, and they labeled me a nuisance. They do deserve death. They cloak themselves as holy people.
As you rant, your vision is obscured, and you feel almost like cobwebs on your face as the mist crawls and snatches at you, and the petitioner tries to bat it away and moves back away from it and knocks up against a pole and looks up to see draped across the shoulders of one of the flayed sailors this vision in white, pale, dead flesh, white long hair, and tattered lace that is just snaking towards the petitioner and dancing around them. She laughs, this laugh that comes from behind you, not from the direction of this voice, and black eyes open, and as the smile widens, the stench of death and drowned things waft down towards you. Reaches a hand down.
Ah, apparition!
Caresses the chest of this flayed sailor.
You remind me of me. You need to get away. You need passage.
Yes.
I will grant you a bit of our strength. We have of the water. We can teach you the ways of the water. You would know how to travel from here as long as there's water. You will know how to travel it. I will give you this. Why not?
And with that laugh, here we go to this foreign city. We don't, it is something that is outside the realm of this movie we've been filming. And strange seabirds circle in the sky, and there's this laughter over this clear, bright day, and we pan down into a city, bustling, busy, messy seafront market, and there's a hubbub even within the normal workings of this market. There's crashes and smashes and hays and look out, and you see a young boy in cap and little leather jerkin sort of jumping and hopping and running through the market, being chased by gendarmes, some sort of like constabulary and merchants, and there's more people adding to the crowd. And finally, we see a ship, and the voices that we've heard yelling are languages we don't know, but on the ship we hear voices that are known to this pool. And this little figure leaps up and grabs onto some netting and pulls themselves up just as the ship is starting to unfurl its sails and pull out. The boy whips off their cap, and their white long hair starts to flow in the wind as they give what can only be a derogatory gesture to the constabulary, who crowd the port, knocking each other into the water with their as more of them like rush towards them. And the arm of a sailor comes down on the shoulder of this child, says in the language that we know, subtitled for her possibly, "You can't go back here now, can you? Part of my crew." She looks over at the arm and sees a tattoo. And we come back to the present, and the tattoo is there. She's caressing it on this flayed sailor.
Yeah.
And she smiles.
What would you ask for this boon, apparition?
That you live your life in trouble. That's all.
And she's just, this laughter echoes around, and she is no longer there.
I do not wish to change my face. I like my face. I do not wish to poison anyone, but I do wish to escape. Please, apparition, help me. They are soon to be here. As the cries of the hounds get closer, and now torchlight can be seen in the mist, and the shouts of men.
The white figure comes close, like the mist again congeals around you, and you're draped in this rotting lace. An arm reaches down and touches the wound on your leg, and the red is on this pale hand. The red just starts to turn clear and bubble like water, and the water flows, and their hand reaches up to the top of the petitioner's head, and the water flows down them, washing them. The petitioner has this feeling they taste salt in the air. They feel the presence of the pool and the water, and they feel the presence of the ocean, and they can, like a physical sensation, understand the tide and reach out and just nudge, like pushing on loam or something, know that they're affecting the shape of the tide, and step towards the pond, and the pond rises to meet them, and they can walk across it and shape this water as they walk clear across the pond and away from the Rusalka.
That's awesome.
This petitioner has the ability to command the tides to stand still, part the sea, and make rivers change their course.
That is pretty rad.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah. Cool, yeah.
So she parts the sea and leaves.
Cool, rad. I'm
Good.
really glad we didn't screw her over.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What does she go on to do then?
Well, so as she walks across the pond, crying, sobbing in relief, her wound is gone. She grabbed up her thick traveling stave once again, and as she makes her way to the edge of the pond, we can see the hounds being held on chain leashes by these men who are wearing like chainmail and have conical helms on and have these torches and obviously weapons. Some of them are dressed more religiously in like robes and larger flaring hats of station. And they're all sort of pointing and shouting at her as she is across the pond. Some of them start to make their way, try to circumnavigate it. But as they watch, she walks up to the shore, places her staff into the sand, and the sea just begins to part in front of her as she leaves the staff there and walks into the water.
Very biblical.
Yeah.
Way to get away from inquisitors.
Yeah.
We rotate everything. So Iris, you have 1/1 there,
Okay.
right? And so what that means is you're going to discard it. It equals a passage of time.
This was taking place in the summer, and it is now winter. Certainly after the non-denominational winter holidays, just sort of that dead part of winter, that late January, early February, where there's nothing really to celebrate. Things are just cold, and they're too cold. The northwestern part of the pool has iced over. It is a cold night. It doesn't snow much this close to the ocean, but it definitely feels icy. From the village, 3 stumbling figures appear carrying a heavy load. Their hands are too cold to even try and hold their cargo, and it keeps slipping from their fingers and falling, and you hear small curses as they try and fetch it up again, and eventually they're just dragging a large bundle towards the edge of the pond. It is 3 teenagers of the village, youths. They are angry and they are weeping, and they are arguing amongst themselves, saying, "It was an accident. You know it was an accident. How could you say it was an accident when you know that you locked him out on purpose?" One of them is just standing over the bundle, just staring. They look to the water and they say, "Please, women, kind women, merciful women of the water, we come to you in the dead of winter in dire need. You see our friend here. Our friend is dead, and it is our fault." And another one shouts, "It's your fault." They unwrap the bundle, and it is another youth, their face frozen over, clearly died of the elements. And you can tell that they are all young, and they are desperate, and they are stupid. And the one kneeling by the friend's corpse says, "Please, we don't know what to do. We don't want to be hung as murderers. We just want this to not have happened."
The bundle lifts and sits up, and a head pops out from behind it and goes,
They scream.
and as they turn away from this horror, standing behind them is the same figure that said boo to them. Hair flying in the wind, black eyes, wide mouth, laugh, rotting silk and lace at its feet, and it blocks their way.
Children, you bring such cold gifts and toys for us. What do you want exactly? I mean, this is fun.
One of them says, "If it's within your power to bring our friend back to life, please, we beseech you." And then another says, No, that is wicked magic. We seek to just to hide it, just to get rid of it, so no one knows it was us." And the third one's just too freaked out to say anything.
All of these options are doable, but you know, power takes heat, and it's so cold. You three have such hot blood. If you do something with your hot blood, you can keep it in you, but if you go and do me a little favor, I think I can help you out. Your friend's not too far gone from this bauble of a body. I can get a little back in here, or we have ways of dealing with frozen fish. You just have to do one thing for me.
And what is that? One of them
asks. I kill someone, of course. Hot, bloody killing. Heat?
And sort of as this weird heat echoes through the thing, we flash to Ayesh in the halls of the royal court of this area, this continent, whatever country we're in. She is dressed in an approximation of the silks of her home and these sort of delicate laces that are, it's obvious that whatever dress was brought to her to wear was, and it's an outmoded fashion from her homeland where she comes from. And she's brought out in front of the king and his children. And this may not be the current king, it's a king of some, but it's a king of this place. And she is kind of paraded around and shown off as an oddity, a little bit of a trinket. And they ask her to, the children of the king come up and ask her to speak to them in their language. And the queen is amused by this and says, you will be their friend. And she is guided with the children off to the nursery to be the friends. We see that there's one of the girls, one of the chambermaids, looks at her with disgust and disdain. A girl a little bit older than them. We see her. This is a few nights later. This girl is in a bed with one of the little princesses with bonbons at their feet. They've been, eating sweets and treats. And this young teenage chamber girl comes up and pinches her awake. Says, "If you're gonna stay here, you're not going to be here for very long. And she brings out a hat pin and pokes her.
Oh.
And she covers her mouth before she can yelp. And there's fear in this white-haired girl's eyes as the blood wells out of this puncture. And we come back to the clade, to the frozen pond.
The pond glows to herald the rising of Ruslana. And Ruslana rises, and her veil is plastic to her skin, revealing essentially what she looks like. And she is just mind-bogglingly beautiful. And she reaches for these young men, and she touches one of them on the side of his face. And she says,
To go through something like this at so young an age. Do not listen to my sister. She means to deceive you. I will bring your friend back, and I ask nothing in return. You should not have had to learn this cruel lesson of life so young. And so I will make it so you do not have to learn it yet.
The boy whose face you're touching says, "There must be a price. What is your price?"
I ask for nothing. I will bring your friend back.
we see Ruslana in a nice house here in this village, nicer than most anyone else has in a village like this. She and her husband, who we saw before, are the final people at a wake. They're looking at the body of his mother, who lived with them up until a day ago. He is sitting right in front of the body, and Ruslana looks at him and looks at her mother-in-law, and she realizes that her final protector is now gone, and that there will be consequences for the rest of her life as long as she is with this man. Back in now, she reaches to the other boys, and she says,
Is this not useful? Is this not helpful? I want to give you what you want.
The one you've been talking to just says, like, forgive our suspicions, my lady. We've heard tales.
And yet you had the courage to come here.
He, like, blushes.
The waves are really crashing on the shore. It's wintertime. The cold winds have risen. They're blowing the waves to crash of this dark, black sea that we find ourselves situated upon. This black sea water has been smashing, or at least what looks like black sea water has been smashing onto the shore, and as it sprays up, unbending, like they had folded in half, like they were bent in half, levering their top half up as the spray explodes into the tide pool, is Henka. Her kelp hair is blown all around her head. She smiles wide with the shark teeth as she calls towards these boys. The wind stops as it becomes preternaturally quiet here. The waves are still crashing. The dunes are still having sand blown across them, but for some reason, none of that is touching this area. As she says to them,
You must accept what you have done, but I can help you see your future so that you do not reap any consequences. You will not be found guilty of this accident, poor boys. But you must accept the outcome of your actions. But I will teach you to see that outcome so you may avoid it if you wish.
as the spray flashes up around us again, sprays up around Henka, we match cut to water being thrown into her face as this matronly woman. She is in a dungeon. She is bloody and beaten. She is shackled to a wall. Her feet do not touch the ground so that her arms are pulling out of their sockets. She is in just a dirty shift. It's obvious that she has been tortured, brutalized. One of her eyes is swollen shut. And before her, coming into this dungeon, is this perfumed, obvious holy man, this priest. Rolls of flesh are coming out of his open collar. A perfumed handkerchief held to his nose as he comes in. Flanking either side of the door are these dungeon keepers, these jailers. They are brutes. They have thick clubs that they use to cudgel their prisoners. The holy man steps in gingerly, and he speaks, saying, "You wish to repent, I am told. You wish to join our order?" And she simply croaks, Yes, I did it all. Please make it stop. I repent my sins." And you see this smile of victory spread over this holy man's face as he knows she has been broken.
The boys huddle together and argue amongst themselves. You can hear one of them say, like, "We don't need to know our future. We know our future." And you hear a whisper of, like, "What about the hot one?" Finally, they break apart. One steps forward and says to Rusalka, like, we want this undone. We just want this. Please, we throw ourselves upon your mercy." And so two of them kind of kneel in front of you, but one of them says, "No, there must be blood for blood. There's always a price." And so he goes over to Aish.
All right. The two that kneel before Rusalka,
She says, "I will bring your friend back."
and she takes their face. First one takes his face in her hands and kisses him on each eye, and she does the same on the other one. And when they open their eyes, they see their friend standing there, but he's still very dead, and he's incorporeal, looking at them, shocked that they can see him now. And as they look around themselves, they can see many other figures wandering around, some more aware than others, some moaning in confusion. And Rusalka says,
"Now you can see them. And now you will learn your lesson. You will be haunted by the dead for the rest of your natural lives. This is my gift to you."
and then she walks backwards and slowly descends back into the pool until it's just a glowing light disappearing into the other side of the pond.
And an arm drapes around the other guys, and he hears the laughter.
Children. Here's what I need you to do. Simple, really. She's not young anymore. Head up to the king. You don't need to kill the king himself, that's fine.
Whew.
But there's a woman there. She dresses our queen. And, well, she needs to go. Now, as soon as her blood runs on the tiles in the royal dressing chamber, your friend here will keep him stored in the pond. He'll rise and gingerly walk without really remembering what happened. Right back into the river. So, there you go.
She puts a large, rusted pin in his hand.
Yes.
And kind of closes his hand around it and gives him a gentle push and says,
Off you go.
He takes it and starts stumbling away to pack for his journey.
Oh, Lord.
And the other two just begin screaming. They also run away.
Is he successful in his assassination mission?
Yeah, that's a rough
Ooh.
one.
so
That's
he gets to the
question.
kingdom, and what happens? And how does he sneak his way in?
Does he get a job?
yeah. I think he.
He works for many years.
Does he fall in love with the woman?
Oh my God.
Well, he's a teenager.
He's a
She's quite a bit
teenager.
older
So he does
now.
fall in love.
I think he finds himself a job scrubbing floors in the castle, starts to learn his way around, and starts to make friends with the other servants, starts learning the ins and outs of the palace and the politics, and finds out the part of the castle where her rooms are and befriends. I don't think he falls in love with her, but I think he definitely gets in with like one of her scullery maids, let's say.
Scullery maids.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nice.
Love it.
After getting close to her, she slips him a key to where the apartments are intending for him to come visit her, but instead, in the dead of night, he comes with the hat pin and does the deed.
Skewers. Yeah, and does he get away with it?
Yeah, that's the question, huh? Replace an accident with a fucking murder.
I know. No, I don't think he does.
Yeah.
I think he gets caught. His girlfriend walks in on
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, and they're both, because she gave him the key.
Oh.
They're
Yeah.
They're both brought to the gallows.
And
Yeah.
she just argued with her like higher up
Yeah.
earlier that day, so they think that the
Yeah,
scullery
just
maid.
implicated.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
the boys led over the ropes put over his head, and his like paramour stands next to him, and she's weeping as the hood is her hood is brought down over her face to give her some dignity. And he looks, before the hood is dropped on his own head, he looks out over the crowd, and standing in the crowd is his friend, who is weeping, says, just mouths thank you as the hood drops over his face.
Oh my gosh.
I think he says you're welcome.
Oh, wow.
And the
Blood
other
for
two
blood.
boys just
Go insane?
They go mad.
They just
Go
go
insane.
mad.
Go
Yeah.
mad.
Go
Yeah,
insane and
like,
run off into the forest?
I imagine that the boy who died hangs out around them. It probably takes a few years for that murder to
Mhm.
successfully happen.
Yeah.
So for years, he's always there
Mhm.
whenever they turn around, whenever they look into a mirror or see a reflection, that he's there behind them. Or when they turn around, he's there across the town, reminding them of this horrible thing that they did. And he is lucid and clear-eyed and angry. There are other dead wandering around as well who are less lucid and who have been lost souls for generations, who wander wailing and weeping and unsure who they are or what is happening anymore. And that is also terrifying. But worst of all is this friend that looks at them with accusing eyes. And they go mad just when they both have run away into the woods, hoping that their friend will not follow them. He is whipped back to his body.
And the spirit did not ever age.
No.
So they kept seeing this young boy
Yeah.
that they knew from their childhood that they
Yeah.
left out in the cold to die. And when that
Yeah.
spirit is whipped back into the body that emerges from the pool, how old is?
It's been on ice.
It's been on ice, so it's
Yeah.
still a kid.
Been on ice.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
kid shows up in the crowd
Uh-huh.
to say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We interrupt our story here, and we'll continue in our next communique. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. Ken, where can people find you?
You can find me, Board Ghost, at Burling's Beard on Twitter and Instagram. That's BERLINGS. Beard. I am a for-hire dungeon master in the New York City area. So if you're looking for someone to run games for you, check me out, hit me up, and I'd love to help you out.
Okay. And Iris, where can people find you?
I'm Iris Explosion. You can find me on Twitter at Iris Explosion, or you can like my Facebook page.
All right.
Cool.
And Zelma.
I'm Zelma Zelma. You can find me at Z for Zelma on Twitter and Instagram. And I am getting better at using Twitter.
You
All
are.
right.
Yeah. Once a day at least.
All right, so we're well into getting into Halloween time. We'll have a new game after this game to wrap up Halloween, but this is a good one. We're excited to get this game back to the table. You can follow us on Twitter at Board Ghost World, and we can go to boardghost.com to find out more about the engine and the players. And you can also go learn more about our music from Pat Couples at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's website, hotelsandhighways.com. Go check out our Patreon if you want to help collaborate make the show at patreon.com/boardghost. If you want to help us kind of get the word out about these games in our show, go to iTunes or your preferred listening portal, subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, and also leave a review. That helps us get up in the rankings, or if anything, just let people know about the show and go find these games so you can play them yourselves, because that's the best thing to do.
And do we have a contest going on right now still?
Till the 25th. So yeah, that's still going on. So there's an announcement. You can go to the website to learn about the content. We have a drawing that's going to wrap on October 25th. You can go find out about that on the website. You can also listen to the announcement episode that'll be gone if this is after the 25th. But you can win some stuff like Ken's Adventure Mixtape.
Yay!
And a copy of Children of the Fall and the Fiasco mobile app that our buddy Tim Rodriguez designed. So all those things are available. If you're not in the void, share our stories. The more they're consumed, the truer they become.
Dying don't agree